This is Off Track.
Yeah. James, you look exhausted.
Our little boy's so tired.
I don't really want to be here either. Tim is in Indianapolis.
Having a great time.
James, you are so tired because you decided to choose money and a future over your own self-care, which is noble and one thing that Tim has never done in anything in his life.
To be fair, I have also never chosen my own self-care.
Yeah, I was going to say that one's actually he's just really striking on both.
I don't know if that's true, considering he stays in his pajamas till noon and goes back to bed as soon as his only responsibility, i.e. his daughter, is dropped off at school. I feel like he chooses self-care quite often.
Have you spent a day in pajamas? Because it's pretty great.
So anyways, so you were in Vegas, James, working, getting it done on the worst schedule that has ever existed. So why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just want to preface by saying that I've kind of always, I used to drive race cars for a living. So I've kind of always put money and future ahead of self-care. If you think about it, that's not like the smartest thing to do if you're super worried about your well-being. As if you listen to last Tuesday's episode, you would know. Yeah, guys, it was the second iteration of the Las Vegas Grand Prix, which last year, though, was a great race itself. It was a difficult weekend. This is going to happen a lot, so get used to it. It was a difficult weekend because the schedule is horrendous, and there was some problems with the track, whatever. This year, the track was great. The schedule was slightly better. So what they did was they moved all the sessions forward by 2 hours. So rather than starting at midnight, like the second session each day would start at 10 p.m. So, that puts you on some schedule of showing up for work at like most days. It was probably around 4. Somewhere between 4 and probably about 4. And then you would be getting home somewhere around 1-ish. And so so it's like, well, Vegas is only a 3-hour time difference. It's not like 3 hours back. You got to think about, you're actually like shifting 10 hours forward almost. And it really does your head in. It's tough. So like you try to sleep until, my best day I slept until noon, which was impressive because I'd gone to bed at like 4. The first night we were there pretty late. And so, yeah, you're just on this weird schedule of trying to sleep all day. And then you go into work and you work all night and it was cold and you're staying right outside. Yeah. Though it was marginally better. So, it was fine. It was good, I guess. It was an exciting qualifying. It was an exciting-ish race. It was a dramatic weekend. Max wrapped up his 4th championship. Jorge won himself a race from pole, which Alex is probably furious about. But it was an impressive display, it has to be said. Caught up with a bunch of people, which was cool. Like Vegas brought out a lot of just people, and had a bunch of friends that were there, a bunch of friends I didn't manage to catch up with just because the scheduling is like so difficult because I am trying to sleep in all morning and then go to work. And that's one of the things that sucks about F1 in general is or maybe it's just this track. I don't think it's just this track, but like if you had a ticket for a certain, Tim, why are you yawning?
It's a sympathetic yawn. That's like a normal thing that happens when somebody yawns. You then also yawn.
You're a pathetic yawn.
It's sympathetic yawn, and they say if people who don't, it might be a sign of psychopathy. So keep an eye on Alex not yawning. Either that, or he's not watching or listening to us.
I'm listening. I'm not watching. I have another tab open.
Yeah, so like if you have a ticket for a section, like for a grandstand or whatever, they don't let you go to other places on the track. Like you can't go to other sections of the venue, which is stupid. Like that sucks. So you can't even like walk around and see other stuff or experience other stuff. So like if I had a friend that had a ticket for some other part of the racetrack, we couldn't even meet like around where I'm working because they're not allowed in that section. It was really weird. But no, it was great, man. It was great. What fun and notable thing can I tell you?
I want to pause for a second. You said it was a good race.
Yeah,
I couldn't disagree with that more if I tried. The only interesting thing was Lewis rectified for his failure in Q3. But once the start happened, it was terrible. I thought it was a horrible race.
So it wasn't a great race, but
Okay.
I mean, even just having Lewis come from 10th to 2nd is exciting by F1 standards.
I wouldn't say it was exciting because he kind of just did the old overcut and looked after his tires better than everyone and kind of got through some lap traffic, and that was about it.
Yeah, again, man, you got to look at what you're comparing it against.
Okay. Well, I mean, I know you're really into the F1 thing these days, but like, let's not just pretend that was a good
Big
race.
F1 guy.
Like,
it could have been worse. Let's put it that way. It was not as good as last year by far. But yeah.
What was the deal with Red Bull's rear wings? They messed them up, or they brought the wrong. Like, what was the whole
hilarious
thing?
Yeah, they literally just brought the wrong one, and they were like 10 kilometers an hour down on a straight line. That's 6 miles an hour, Tim. And they literally just had to take like a Dremel to the wing and just chop a bunch out of it. It was the most NASCAR thing I've ever seen in Formula One. Like, we don't even do that in IndyCar. Like, I've never seen someone just literally going to town on bodywork.
Because it's not allowed.
True. But you know what I mean? Like in like the principle of just like chopping bits off of cars had a much more of a NASCAR feel to it. But yeah, they did that. Credit to them. It kind of worked. Mercedes was shockingly way quicker than everybody else, and nobody was expecting it to be quite like that. But George did a great job all weekend. Lewis made that little two little boo-boos in Q3, like you mentioned, so he had to start 10th, or else he would have probably just walked away with that race. The Ferrari guys had some drama. Oh, Colapinto had another massive crash in qualifying, which sucks for the old Williams crew, who have a laundry list of repairs on their books from the last few weeks. Yeah, man, the Ferrari took a big chunk out of McLaren on the constructors stuff. And yeah, I mean, you're right. The race wasn't like nuts. It wasn't like crazy, but there was some good action. It's a track that races well, right? Like that's what's good about that place. So like in the midfield, there was some good battles, and like Lawson and Magnussen were leaning on each other. And
on lap one, yeah. No, it was terrible. It looks great on television. It didn't seem as though the turnout was a lot better. Maybe it was a bit better than last year, but it still seemed pretty light on people.
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer to that because I never leave the paddock. Like I go into the paddock and I never leave. So I didn't see a single grandstand. Like I have no idea how full it was. And it's like even the one that you can see on the pit straight, it's so dark. I literally can't even, like the track's so bright and it just washes everything else out. I don't even know how many people were in the stands. But I can tell you that like, so we stayed at the Paris because it was like you could walk to the track. And when you're hanging out there, so you try to like make your day so that way, you know, it's like just offset. So even though we'd get home at 1 o'clock or whatever, you try to stay up a couple more hours. And so you'd go have a drink in the lobby bar with some of the crew, or with, you know, Connor was working there this weekend, and saw him a bunch. So you just be sitting there, and at 2 o'clock in the morning,
he was working at the lobby bar. Is that what you said?
No, he was working at a track. But we put in some work at the lobby bar. Let's be honest. But it was wild to me to see how many people are walking around in merch. Like, if you were to remove everybody that was wearing something Formula One related, the place would have been empty. And that's not to say that there were people there for the race that weren't wearing their team shirt. Do you know what I mean? Like,
right.
it definitely drew in. Like, again, we could walk to the track, so obviously that was going to be one of the hotels that's going to be packed with fans because it's close or whatever. It was wild, man. It was wild how many people were in the casino, in the restaurants, and whatever, and just everybody's decked out in gear. Like, you don't see that at other races. Like, you don't see that at IndyCar races. You see a fraction of the people wearing kit, but like everybody is done up. I
think it's because it's become such a fashionable thing to like be associated, or it's a brand now, right? It's no different than wearing Billabong when we were growing up, right? Or like, no, seriously, Vans, or
weird
like,
shout, but okay.
No, but like it's you want to wear it whether or not you really have anything to do with the industry, right?
For sure.
So like,
for sure,
you could have never seen a surfboard in your life, yet you still want to wear it, right? It's the same thing. You could never have touched a car in your life, but you still want to wear Formula One branded stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like when I was there a month ago for an event, I was blown away at some of the pop-up shops that had already been put into hotels a month out, right? And you walk in there and like a hat is $69 or a hoodie is $140. Like they're just, it's a cash cow, and it's what people want. So I also saw something on Connor's Instagram. I don't know if you saw this and if it was in your hotel or whatever, but you know how Carlos like has his pseudo like a theme song, right? Like Smooth Operator. Yeah. They did like a pop-up bar that was Carlos's Smooth Operator bar, which is just like, that is insane to get a bar in Vegas to brand themselves off of you.
Last year they did the Shoey bar for Ricardo. Like, this isn't even the first driver to get their own bar.
You're
like,
right. But I think I was surprised to see Carlos Sainz of all people, right? Like Daniel, I mean, he's pretty big in the US, and I guess that kind of, the Shoey is a drink. It can be a drink. And so they're playing off of that to sell a cocktail for $90. What does Carlos Sainz bring to a bar in Vegas? Nothing. Right?
I bet it was packed. I bet he brought a lot of people.
100%. But like, it's just, it's amazing the trajectory it's on. So yeah, like I said, it looked the part on TV.
Did you watch it live or did you watch a replay?
Absolutely not, James.
Yeah. I hate the schedule. I absolutely hate the schedule.
Are you kidding me?
It doesn't make sense for anybody anywhere in the world. Like, even in Europe, it kind of sucks. It's like they have to get up super early to watch. I don't know. It's there's one thing you could change about it to be that, but
so why is it? Why do they do that?
Well, it's got to be a night race, right?
Cool, and so but the sun goes down at like 5:45 this time of year.
Yeah, so I think if you did it earlier, then nobody in Europe would watch, because it's, like as it is. So they're like, England is 8 hours ahead, right? So you're already asking people to get up at what's the math on that? 6 hours or 6 a.m. So if it's earlier, plus I don't know if they're allowed to, like, I think it'd be harder to get permission to shut the streets any earlier.
Because it's not like the streets are open. I'm sure when they're not racing, like it's still a track, right? They have to build up these walls. No, it's open during the day.
That's what's insane about that race.
Shocking.
Compared to like other street tracks, is they have, like, part of the deal is they have to like open up certain sections during the day.
Okay, well then that's why.
Yeah. So anyway, it is that. But while there was a lot of hubbub, as you might say. Some rumors about stuff happening, some cool news that was rumored to be happening and got announced like 8 minutes ago from when we're recording this, which is that the Cadillac F1 team entry has been not just approved by the FIA, but have come to terms with FOM, which means that in 2026, there will be an 11th team on the grid. It'll be an American team. It'll be Cadillac branded, and it'll be partly based in Fishers, Indiana.
Let's talk about that more. But for people that want to hear about that, they have to listen to Thursday's episode. But that's very cool that came out. I would like to talk about, while we finish this one up, just Verstappen, right? Like he was able to do it was very clear that for the second half of the season, he wasn't in the strongest car. It was very clear the development rate and curves that they were on had been surpassed by McLaren and Ferrari. And yet he still wins with 2 to go. And I don't think it can be oversold as to how impressive that is, because forget what he did in the first half of the year. You got to look at where Sergio is right now. And I know we can talk about, is he that good or not? It doesn't matter. He's not getting out of Q1s, right? And Max is still taking the fight this weekend it was hilarious because it was 2 Mercedes, 2 Ferraris, and 2 McLarens. And then you just have Max there by himself.
In the middle, just hanging out.
Fending off everyone else. And it really is a testament to him. But also, I must say, I felt like Lando gave up this weekend. I'm not saying that McLaren necessarily had the pace of Mercedes or Ferrari, but we've seen how Max has raced when he's had the disadvantaged car. We've seen how he's raced when he's had a massive points gap, right? We go back to Austria where it's he was just racing for the win. He could have easily conceded second to Lando, yet he was just fighting tooth and nail to still win that race. And that mentality that we've talked about for weeks on this show. Where was that from Lando? Lando was starting next to him. He had the inside of him going into turn 1, right? It's your last chance. You're probably not going to win the championship, but where's the effort? Where's some lunge to try and make something happen? I felt like he had already just thrown in the towel, and I don't know.
But is it that, or is it just Max just operates at a different level than everybody else? Is Lando any different than the other guys that if they were in the exact same position?
I think Lewis is different than that. I really do.
Yeah.
I would argue that Carlos is different than that. We saw he's departing, but he gives no f***s about team orders with Charles, right? So he's got that little bit of edge to him. I don't know. You'd say with your limited sample size that Liam Lawson is like that.
Yeah. Fine.
Right? Okay. Well, I'm just saying that, there are drivers out there that are going to, I would say Oscar would. You think if Oscar has one more shot to keep the championship alive, he's not going to make a lunge for it? I think he would.
Yeah, maybe.
So maybe. I'm not saying, again, Lando didn't do anything wrong. Ultimately, Max outqualified him, had better pace in the race, all of this stuff, but there wasn't even when, there was a shot in the beginning to you have to stay in front of him. Try.
Yeah. For sure. But again, so just back to Max and to highlight how incredible it was, right? So yeah, fine. He had the car advantage at the start of the year. And Checo's finishing second, third, right? He's up there. When the car's good, he can be thereabouts. We've seen him beat Max in a straight-ish up fight in the past when the car was good, right? As the car got worse, because it doesn't even just seem like the other cars got better. It really does seem like the Red Bull, in an attempt to try to find more speed, made it harder to drive, right? And as the car got worse and harder to drive, that gap between him and Max just incredibly keeps growing. Now, I will say in Checo's defense, the team in qualifying, which they've done a few times now, just in getting their whole program wrong. But again, he shouldn't be going out in Q1 with only one run. He should be able to get, a lot of drivers made it through a one run in Q1, and he should be able to do that. But it's wild to see how that car's developed, how that chasm between the two just continues to grow. And so that is, to me, what really just highlights how incredible Max is. And the races that he won that he shouldn't have, because he just outdrove the car and outdrove everybody else. And like you say, they had the best car for probably the first 5 races. He's won 8.
Yeah,
and
I
he hasn't had the best
Barcelona
car since.
he didn't have the best car.
For sure not.
Yeah.
For sure. Miami, you could argue that he got that damage from hitting the bollard, and that's why Lando was able to beat him, plus the safety car, fine, whatever. But basically after that, their car was just not good enough. But he just never let a point go that was available to him. Not one the entire year. It was unbelievable. So very deserving. he's just continuing to set records. He has now led the world championship for more consecutive days than anyone else in history. He's joined Vettel, Hamilton, Fangio, Schumacher for 4 straight. And then you add in like Prost, I think, for 4 overall. And yeah, man, like you talk about Sergio going out in Q1. He went out in Q1 for the, I don't mean to just keep Sergio, but this stat was funny. He went out for the 6th time in Q1 this season in Vegas. Max has gone out 6 times in Q1 in his Formula One career in 10 years. What? Like, you guys, like, we're just watching like an unbelievable generational phenom, like, just bury everybody. It's insane. So next year it'll be really fascinating, right? Because if Red Bull has a decent car, I don't know, like, everyone's talking about how good the series is going to be next year because everyone's going to keep getting closer and closer or whatever. Yes, in theory that is true, but if everybody gets close, Max wins again because Max is just driving better, period. And I do think that Lewis might be the only guy that can operate at that level, but he can only do it when he's really comfortable in the car. Like, as good as Lewis is, and we've spent hours on this show over the years when Lewis was winning everything, talking about like, no, this isn't just the car. This guy is absolutely exceptional. You can tell he is kind of checked out, and the drive on Sunday was a Saturday night, whatever, was very impressive because it looked like old Lewis. And it's like, as soon as he's comfortable with the car, he's fine. But if he's not comfortable with the car, he just seems like he's not in it the same way as Max. Even when Max is uncomfortable with the car's not great, and he's bitching and not happy, he still just drives a piss out of it and just collects the result. Now, part of it's maybe just, like Hamilton knows he's checking out, he's going to the next place and whatever. Motivation might be a little bit down, but if all the cars are close next year, Max wins again. And so for the sake of the show, you need to hope that Red Bull's like decent, but not great. So we'll see. So Doha coming up this weekend. I leave for that in like 24 hours and then straight to Abu Dhabi. And yeah, man, that was our time in beautiful Sin City. Tim, still waiting for you to come. I mean, you were supposed to be there. And you never
I'm in the lobby right now.
Oh, okay. We'll see you there next year.
All right. Well, tune in Thursday to hear our usual Thanksgiving stuff and more about the the Cadillac F1 stuff.
This has been Off Track with Hinch and Rossi. Off Track is part of the SiriusXM Sports Podcast Network. If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear more, please give a 5-star rating and leave a review. Subscribe today wherever you stream your podcasts. We are at Ask Off Track on Twitter and Instagram. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, we're at Hinchtown and at Alexander Rossi. If you want to follow Tim, though we have no idea why you would, he's at The Tim Durham on Twitter. Find us on YouTube and subscribe to our channel for exclusive video content. Off Track is produced by Tim Durham, and by that we mean Tim.